doing this in the kitchen. Hopefully, it is not too echoey, but at this point, it is what it is, and this is the best that I could do. So, yeah, here we are. You already know what this video is, so let me tell you all about the books that I read in May. Starting with Chain of Gold, Chain of Iron, and Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. So, this trilogy is the last one that I wanted to read from the Shadowhunters universe. I obviously have read earlier in the year the Infernal Devices, I have continued with the Dark Artifices, and now I finally got the chance to read the, what are they called again? The Lost Towers trilogy. So, the Lost Towers trilogy, we are following the children of the main couples that were formed at the end of the Infernal Devices. So please, please, please do not read these books if you don't have the knowledge from the Infernal Devices. Go read the Infernal Devices first and then read these ones because otherwise it will not make much sense. But first, before I actually tell you what I think about this trilogy overall and these books separately, let me read you a quote from Charles Dickens. So he says in Great Expectations, pause you who read this and think for a moment of the long chain of iron or gold, of thorns or flowers that would never have bound you, but for the formation of the first link on one memorable day. This quote from Charles Dickens serves as inspiration for the titles of this trilogy. So we have Chain of Gold, Chain of Iron, and Chain of Thorns. And as with pretty much every Cassandra Clare book at this point, she is inspired by the great classics. And even though I don't think I read anything from Charles Dickens before, you can kind of tell in the way that these characters are carrying themselves that this was the inspiration for these books. In the Infernal Devices, we were following the parents of these characters in the Victorian London at the end of the 1800s. And now we are following their children in the Edwardian era of London. And being back in the London Institute in that era just felt so joyous for me and so like I was going back home. I loved being back in the London Institute because even from the Infernal Devices, I had this very clear imagery and idea of what the institute looks like, at least what it looks like in my head. And when I started reading Chain of Gold, I had the exact same feeling that I knew where I was, I knew how it looked like, I knew every like room and corridor and secret entrance and stuff like that. So it just felt really good to be back in the London Institute. Obviously, because this is a spin-off of another spin-off of a series. I can't go that much into detail without spoiling things that are happening either in the Mortal Instruments or in the Infernal Devices, or even in the Dark Artifices. But what I want to say is that when I started reading Chain of Gold, I was not really a fan of the whole Grace plot line. It just felt like it was too predictable. But Cassandra Clare managed to keep me entertained as a reader and invested enough to care about this new character that we are meeting in this trilogy and to make me a bit more interested in their storyline and the way that went on, even though yes, it was predictable, I had a great time along the way. I definitely do believe that the first and the second books, so Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron, were the strongest in the trilogy for me. Chain of Thorns just felt like it dragged a bit, and then when it came the time to end the book and end this trilogy, to me just felt rush in the last 20 or 30 pages, something like that. We get this supercut with all the characters and what they're up to now that they have defeated the main kind of like villain of the story from this trilogy. And I guess where I'm coming from is that I wanted more time with these characters to really see how their lives were changed by the end of the book. And this is like a pretty long book. I think it's over like 700 pages. Yeah, it's 750 almost. So to say that I wanted more is not necessarily a bad thing, but I truly did wish to have more time with these characters in the end. Also, a really fun thing in Chain of Thorns, and please comment down below if you read this trilogy and you were able to spot this, but closer to the end of Chain of Thorns, I believe, we finally get the explanation as to why a character that we meet in the Infernal Devices is, or appears to be immortal, but they're not really. Because we meet this character again in 2012 or 2014 when the Dark Artifices are supposed to take place, and from the end of the 1800s up until the 2010s is a really long time for someone to be alive. So I wasn't quite sure, or even if this character was the same character that we met in the Infernal Devices, but I'm happy that we finally got an explanation to that in the last book from this series. It was like a teeny tiny detail, but I very much enjoyed how Cassandra Clare was thinking to put this Easter egg here in this trilogy. So yeah, I'm very happy that I finally read this trilogy. I'm overall happy with how it was handled and with these characters and with the story overall. And yeah, this was the Lost Hours trilogy. A great success, in my opinion. Hungerstone by, I forgot who this is from, by Kat Dunn. This is a sapphic vampire story. It was quite thrilling and also full of just like angry characters and full of female rage. And I really, really enjoyed this book as well. So in Hungerstone, we are following our main character, Lenore, who has to fulfill all of these wifely duties, wifely chores, or house chores, I should say. She plays the role of this good and loving wife, and one day her husband comes with the idea for them to move to a remote house. And on their way there, they encounter this other woman who is not feeling well. I think she was hit by someone or something, and they're obviously deciding to take care of her. So they are welcoming this stranger to their new house. And we very soon find out that the name of this woman is Carmilla, and our main character, Lenore, starts to be very, how should I say this, influenced by Carmilla. If you are in a reading slump or you truly don't know what to read and you enjoy vampire stories, I think this one is a really good contender for that. It was slower in the beginning, but I was never bored with what these characters were doing, and it was really, really enjoyable. So, this is Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. Next up, I have read a short story collection from Clarice Lispector. This is from Penguin's newest collection called Penguin Archive. And this is called The Burned Sinner and the Harmonious Angels. As you can probably already tell, this book is super, super short, and it is composed of short stories that have the main theme of feminism, I should say. Some of the stories were more to my liking than others, but it just they are so short that you kind of forget what you liked and what you didn't like by the end of the book, or at least that's how it was in my experience. Something that I didn't really connect or vibe with in this book is the characters, because some of them were just coming across as whiny or overtly melancholic or dramatic, and I don't know if that was for me necessarily, but nonetheless, it was a great experience reading the book. I think Clarice Lispector has a very interesting and fresh way of composing her phrases, her sentences. She says certain things in a specific way that I think is very unique to this author. This was my first encounter with Clarice Lispector, but honestly, I think I would be down to read some other things from Clarice Lispector as well in the future. So this is The Burned Sinner and the Harmonious Angels. I can never remember the title of this book. Next up, another very, very short book and short story. This is White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. So this is a story about loneliness and friendship and love and depression and just like the feeling of belonging to something or someone. I really, really liked how the author talks about the human condition. And also what it means to be alone in the big city, because our main character is this guy who is struggling with loneliness and finding connections in the big city because that is a new experience for him. So he is surrounded by people always and forever, but he also, in the same time, feels lonely, feels like he's not connecting necessarily with anyone. And then he finds this girl who he really likes, and they embark on this journey of self discovery together. With this book, again, my main issue was the characters, because even though through their lens we are able to discuss these topics of depression and loneliness and what friendship really means and stuff like that, the characters themselves just came across to me personally as overtly dramatic for no apparent reason, and sometimes whiny and annoying. So that kind of took me out of the story at specific moments in this book. But as I said, I think the themes that are explored through these characters are still very relevant to this day, and something that I think the majority of us are kind of struggling with in today's day and age. So this is White Knights. Next up, I have read a book that was so good. This is Lucy Undying by Kirsten White. This is another vampire book that I absolutely loved. Like, I loved reading this book. I loved taking my time with this book. I loved just discovering this world alongside the characters. It is a bit like on the nose sometimes. This book really reminded me of the way that Olivia Blake is kind of navigating her plot lines in her books, and also how she views the world. So if you like Olivia Blake, maybe you should read this one and see if it is for you or not, because I absolutely love this one. So, Lucy Undying, it is loosely inspired by the classic Dracula, but also with a modern and queer twist. If you read the original Dracula by Bram Stoker, I don't know why I'm saying the original Dracula because it's only one. If you read Dracula by Bram Stoker, you will see that you will meet some of those characters again in this book. So there are some fun Easter eggs if you have that knowledge from reading Dracula. But basically, Lucy Undying is this book about two girlies who are trying to overthrow an MLM that might be potentially run by vampires. So in this book, we are following two characters. And obviously, it comes a point when their stories are kind of intertwined, and they get to team up to come up with a plan to, as I said, overthrow this MLM company that was founded by the mother of one of the two main characters. In the beginning, on one side of the story, we have Lucy Westerna, who is a vampire, and we get to know her life story. One, because we are reading the transcript from her therapist. So she's actually recounting her life story to her therapist, and we have those excerpts from the transcripts in the book. But we also have Lucy's diary that she was writing in before she was turned into a vampire by Dracula. And then we are also following our other main character, Iris, who is currently in London because her mother recently passed away, and she's trying to get a hold of these two estates that her mother has in London, and she's trying to see if she can sell some of the things from those houses, because she really doesn't want to use the money of her mother's company to make ends meet. So she's trying to find other creative ways to basically earn money. So yeah, these were my thoughts on Lucy Undying. I would wholeheartedly recommend it. Next up, I have a book that was, well, questionable, let's say. So I have read The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, and I don't really know what this was. I don't really know what I was supposed to feel or to experience as a reader because this was just so confusing and I didn't really like reading it. I'm so sorry. I know this is very popular and I know it has like a cult following, but um it was just not really for me. I got kind of the idea of it and what the author was trying to do, but after a certain point in the book, it just feels like they're just words on a page and they don't really make sense or they're not really connected in between. The writing style, it is trying to be very lyrical and whimsical and flowery and almost fairy tale-esque, but there is no compelling plot and also no character development, and all the characters feel very one note. Like this character is obsessed with video games, and that is their whole personality. These characters just felt really bland and boring. If I want to tell you what this book is about, I honestly don't really know if I can summarize it because what it says on the back of the book is not really important, and I wouldn't go by that. But the story starts with this guy, Zachary Ezra Rawlins, who is a student. And one day he goes to the library and he discovers this book who doesn't appear in any database, doesn't have like a barcode or stuff like that. I'm pretty sure he doesn't know who the author is. And as he starts reading it, he becomes obsessed with it because he very soon realizes that one of the stories that exists in this book is actually about his childhood. So after that, he keeps reading and rereading this book, and he kind of gets sucked into this massive scheme with two rival secret societies who are trying to just like do some things, but it just doesn't go anywhere. And it was such a bummer because this book had so much potential. Like, I would have loved for the plot to just keep developing and keep developing, but it just didn't really do anything, in my opinion. Also, I have a quote from this book because this is where I was like really, really bad. So it says there were six doors. Each door stood adjacent to another door, and the doors were all equidistant from the nearest door. Each door had a handle which, presumably, would open the door. Each door was etched with a crown or a bee or a sword. Which door? Which door indeed? Like, yes, it sounds really good. It sounds interesting. It sounds lyrical, but in the same time, what is it trying to tell? You know, the words crown, bee, sword, and also the full name of our main character, Zachary Ezra Rollins, were repeated so many times, so many times that when I saw these words on the page, I was just like rolling my eyes, like, not again. After so many repetitions and so many words that don't make sense, you're just like tired and exhausted, and you just want it to end. And thankfully, it did, but it also didn't really conclude anything. So, yeah, these are my thoughts on The Starless Sea. If you read this book and if you liked it, please let me know in the comments down below. Please tell me what were the reasons for which you liked this book, because I truly would like to understand what the hype is and why everyone is so obsessed with this book. I have read a werewolf romance, kind of. I read Wolfsong by TJ Klune. Now, my experience with TJ Klune, I read The House in the Cerulean Sea when it came out. I read Somewhere Beyond the Sea when it came out, and I loved those books so much. So I had very set expectations for a TJ Klune book, and this just felt like a departure from that way of writing and from the universe of the House in the Cerulean Sea. This was very slow paced, and it kind of felt like it dragged in the middle of it. This is pretty long, and I don't know if we needed all of those words, to be honest. This is also very sad and very melancholic and dramatic, and these two main characters are just not communicating enough, or I should say, they're not really communicating full stop, point blank. A lot of characters are being killed off, specifically in the first part of the book, and I understand why that was the case because we needed those other characters to die in order for our two main characters to develop themselves and their relationship. But in the same time, after a while, it just felt like those characters were being killed off in order to pull the reader's heartstrings and not for the benefit of the other characters. There's also a pretty big age gap between the two main characters. I think it's 6 or 7 years. And while it is true that they didn't technically get together before both of them were of appropriate age, it just felt like the age gap was too much and almost not needed. And it just made me feel uncomfortable and kind of icky about the whole relationship between them to the point where it wasn't really rewarding when they actually got together, you know. But that being said, there were also things that I really liked in this book. I think the way that these characters are navigating grief and loss was very raw and vulnerable and genuine, and it truly helped them to grow as characters, as individuals, and also in their relationship after they communicated some things. In typical TJ Klune fashion, obviously, we have found family vibes, and everyone is accepted for who they are and how they're presenting. Another thing that I found quite interesting with the writing style, the werewolves were almost seeing emotions as colors, and their emotions were always described in this way. It actually reminded me of Red from Taylor Swift, where she says, losing him was blue like I'd never known, missing him was dark gray all alone, forgetting him was like trying to know somebody you never met, but loving him was red. It is something like that, but a bit more elevated. Yeah, this is Wolfsong. This is a series, and I'm pretty sure this series is not actually like a typical series, it's more so like interconnected standalones. And I don't know if I want to continue reading the other three books. Probably not for the foreseeable future, but um, now that I've read this book, I can technically do that if I ever want to. So yeah, this was Wolfsong by TJ Klune. Next up, I read Hunchback, and this is a literary fiction book. It was very interesting to have this experience of reading it. I've seen this online so much. Obviously, the cover is just really, really eye-catching, and also it has some blurbs on the back from Mariana Enriquez and Sayaka Murata and Saba Sands and Nicola Dinan, um, who are authors that I have read before. Well, actually, from Nicola Dinan, I have Bellies on my TBR. I've never read any of their books, but I'm looking forward to that after the success of Hunchback. So, in Hunchback, we are following a woman in her 40s, and she is born with a congenital muscle disorder. She has severe spine curvature, and also she uses an electrical wheelchair and ventilator. Throughout the book, she talks about her struggles and how other people are treating her because of this illness. But on top of that, she also talks about her sexual fantasies, and she actually posts like certain things that she wants to do online on her social media. And one day, a male caretaker is supposed to help her take a bath or shower or something like that. In that moment, he discloses that he actually follows her on social media and he knows all about her fantasies. And after that, she just comes up with this very peculiar proposal for this guy, and things are kind of escalating from here. It is short, it is entertaining, but also self-aware and heartbreaking at times. And there are certain scenes when I was uncomfortable, but that uncomfortability kind of led to some thought-provoking questions that I had to ask myself. So I just think it was well written. I just think it was well done, and this was a very unique perspective, obviously, because I know the author herself is also struggling with this illness that our main character has. It is unique, it is peculiar. I don't think this is for everyone, but um, no book is for everyone. So, yeah, this was Hunchback. So, on to the last three books that I have read in May. The next one is Medusa's Sisters by Lauren J.A. Bear. This is a mythology, retelling mythology reimagining of the myth of Medusa and of her sisters, the Gorgons. Me personally, like I knew obviously about Medusa. I know who she was or is in the mythological space, but I didn't really know the full story, like how she became the monster that can turn people to stone with just one glance. This book is written from the perspective of both of Medusa's sisters, Steno and Urayi, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing those names correctly. We are told their story from the moment when they were born up until Medusa's death. This is not a spoiler because we know from the beginning of the story that she was born a mortal. So we all knew that her death was going to come eventually. And her journey is so tragic and devastating and raw and emotional and vulnerable. I really, really like how their sisterhood was illustrated in this book. I like how the relationships between three of the sisters, but also between them and their parents and their family, were navigated. There were some graphic scenes, and there is a moment in which Medusa is essayed by one of the gods. So I would truly check the trigger warnings for this. If you know you can't handle that, maybe don't read this one. Obviously, I can't speak too much on that because I don't think I'm well equipped to do that. But I thought the writing style and the choices that the author made were very tasteful and well suited for how the story progressed. This was very well written. I liked how each of the two sisters, Steno and Urali, were developed, whereas Medusa was kind of a mystery up until a certain point because her sisters truly didn't know those things about Medusa's life. So we as readers also were unaware of them. So yeah, this was Medusa's Sisters. Really, really liked this one. I would recommend it if you enjoyed Circe, if you enjoyed the Song of Achilles, which I personally didn't, but it's you're kind of like in the same sphere. So yeah, this was Medusa's Sisters. Next up, I read The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Rees Brennan, and Maureen Johnson. So these are some stories from the Shadowhunters world, centering everyone's favorite warlock, Magnus Bane, the High Warlock of Brooklyn. This was fine. I don't have any like strong feelings about it. And that's a bit weird because Magnus Bane is honestly one of my favorite characters from the Shadowhunters world, but these stories were kind of filler in a way. Like it was cool to see these moments. For example, we have the specific moment in which Clary's mom from the Mortal Instruments came to see Magnus Bane to put that whole veil thing on Clary so that she doesn't remember something. um it was cool to see those Easter eggs and those moments that we already knew about from previous books, but we didn't really know exactly how they went. So it was cool to see, but I don't think it was anything that special. So yeah, this is the Bane Chronicles. And then last, but certainly not least, I read Rachel Gillig's newest release, The Night and the Moth. This was exactly what I wanted and exactly what I expected a new Rachel Gillig book to be. This was so strange and dark and thrilling and a very unique fantasy setting, which is kind of Rachel Gillig's thing at this point, because One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns were also very unique in their fantasy setting. This is following one of the diviners that are like adjacent to the king's court, but in this world, the king doesn't actually hold the power, but these diviners do, or so we are led to believe, because they can pretty much read some omens, and because of that, they can kind of like predict the future in a way, and everyone is trusting them, and everyone is, looking forward to get a reading from these diviners. The issue is these diviners are not paid. They are pretty much abused by the matron of this diviners circle, I guess. And we very soon find out that these diviners were not told the truth, and it is up to one of them, to our main character, to solve the whole mystery. But by the time she solves the mystery, she realizes that one of the friends that she made along the way is betraying her. So, yeah, this was a very bad synopsis of the book, but honestly, I don't know how else to describe it. We have griffins that are living creatures, which I found really, really cool. We have like the funniest griffin that is our main character's sidekick. Also, the romance from this book took me by surprise, because usually I don't care that much about romance, like it's whatever. But in this book, I think it was really, really well done, because the relationship between our main character and their love interest felt like it was organic. Like it just felt like these characters liked each other and they got together, but it was not rushed, it was not forced, it was not something that was coerced by exterior forces and stuff like that. So yeah, I just really, really like this book, and I'm already looking forward to the sequel of this, because this is the start of a duology or of a series. But I have to wait probably another year for that. Yeah, this is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. But yeah, that being said, these were all of the books that I read in May. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to, and I guess I'll see you in a new video soon here on the channel. Bye, everyone.